158, 163, then 171, then back down to 149. Those were 4 mornings in a row, years ago, before I understood what was actually happening to me while I slept. I used to write the numbers down in a little notebook, like keeping score in a game I was clearly losing. I'm Frank. I'm 83 years old. I don't keep that notebook anymore, not because I stopped checking, but because I stopped dreading what it would say. I sleep through the night now. I wake up steady, and I still do the crossword every morning with my coffee before anyone else in the house is even up. That took time to earn. I want to walk you through the one thing I started doing every single night that changed how I felt walking into my own kitchen. For years, I did everything the way I was told. Watched my carbs, took my medication like clockwork, and still, morning after morning, that number sat up in a range that made no sense given how careful I'd been the day before. I remember thinking more than once that my own body had simply stopped listening to anything I asked of it. Here's what nobody explained to me in those 8-minute appointments, and it's the piece that changed everything once I understood it. Research in endocrinology describes something called the dawn phenomenon, a surge of hormones in the early morning hours, roughly between 2 and 4 a.m., that signals your liver to release stored glucose so your brain has fuel to wake up on. In a younger or more insulin-sensitive body, that release gets quietly absorbed. But after 60, with years of insulin resistance built up in the tissue, the mechanism that's supposed to catch that overnight glucose often shows up late or barely shows up at all. The liver keeps pouring. Nothing catches it in time. And you wake up to a number that has almost nothing to do with how good you were the night before. Once I understood that, the frustration didn't disappear, but it changed shape. It stopped being about willpower and started being about timing, specifically what I was doing to my body in that overnight window. You do everything right. You eat clean, you take your pills, and the next morning that number is still too high. I know that frustration. I lived it for years. They never tell you about the morning rise, your sugar climbing while you sleep, no matter what you did the day before. You wake up, you test, and it feels like the work didn't count, like you're stuck depending on more and getting nowhere. I was done feeling powerless. I didn't want to throw out my doctor's plan. I wanted something natural and simple I could add to it, something that finally moved that morning number. I'll walk you through what changed it for me. And the natural support I add every day is in the free presentation linked below. The hours nobody's watching and nobody's grading you on. The habit is this: a tablespoon of ground flaxseed soaked in a small glass of water for about 2 minutes before bed, then drunk down like a shot. That's it. 2 minutes, 1 glass, every single night. A word on the practical side, because I fumbled this at first myself. Use ground flaxseed, not the whole seed. Whole flax seeds tend to pass through the body largely undigested, and you lose most of the benefit. Most grocery stores sell it pre-ground, or you can grind whole seed yourself in a coffee grinder in about 10 seconds. Stir it into the water, let it sit those 2 minutes so the fiber has a chance to start absorbing liquid, and drink it down. It's not going to win any flavor awards. It's not meant to. It's meant to do a job. Here's why it does something real. Flaxseed is loaded with a specific kind of soluble fiber that once it hits your stomach, forms a gel-like consistency. Research on soluble fiber and blood sugar has found that this gel physically slows how quickly carbohydrate and sugar move from your stomach into your bloodstream over the following hours. So instead of whatever you ate at dinner hitting your blood in one wave, it trickles in more gradually, which means less sugar is sitting around in your bloodstream right as that overnight liver release begins. You're essentially giving your body a slower, steadier stream to manage instead of a flood, right at the exact hours when the dawn phenomenon is doing its work. I want to be honest with you. Flaxseed water alone isn't the whole story. It works best stacked with 2 other pieces. The first is a short walk after dinner, even just 10 minutes around the block. Movement activates a mechanism in your muscles called GLUT4 that pulls glucose out of your bloodstream without needing much insulin to do it, clearing out some of dinner's sugar before it ever reaches that overnight window. The second is magnesium, leafy greens, a small handful of almonds, or a supplement your doctor approves. Research on magnesium status has found that a meaningful share of people with type 2 diabetes run low on this particular mineral, and low magnesium has been associated with reduced insulin sensitivity across the board. Flaxseed water before bed, a short walk after dinner, attention to magnesium. 3 pieces, 1 system, working on the same overnight problem from different directions. I think about a woman named Sylvia, 77. Spent her career as a seamstress running her own little shop downtown for almost 40 years. She told me she used to set her alarm 15 minutes early just to give herself time to work up the courage to check her meter. She started with the flaxseed water because it was the simplest thing to just try without overthinking it. A few weeks in, she added the evening walk. She told me, plainly, the way she described finishing a hymn, that she stopped bracing herself before the meter beeped. Not cured, not fixed, just not braced anymore. I share her story because it's possible to feel less at war with your own body, not because any single habit fixes everything on its own. Sylvia told me something else that stuck with me. She said the 2 minutes of soaking the flaxseed became a kind of signal to her own body that the day was ending on purpose, not just running out. A small ritual, not a chore. I think that matters more than people realize. When bedtime feels like something you're doing to yourself rather than something happening to you, the whole evening carries less tension, and less tension at bedtime is its own quiet contribution to a calmer night. I'll also tell you plainly what this habit is not. It is not a substitute for your medication, and it will not undo decades of insulin resistance in a week. What it appears to do, based on the research behind soluble fiber, is smooth out one variable: how quickly the sugar from your last meal reaches your bloodstream, during the exact hours your liver is deciding how hard to lean on its own glucose release. Smoothing one variable isn't nothing. For a lot of people, it's the first variable in years that's actually moved in the right direction. I want you to picture what that actually feels like from the inside, because I live it every single day now. I wake up, I do my crossword, I don't have that tight feeling in my chest before I even reach for the meter. I've got the steadiness at 83 to still take my great-grandson fishing on Saturday mornings, and I intend to keep doing that for as long as my legs will let me. Because here's what I really want you to hear underneath all of this. The dread you feel looking at that meter every morning, that's not really about the number itself. It's about the fear that your body has stopped cooperating with you, that no matter what you do, nothing changes, and that maybe it's simply too late for you to have any say in this anymore. I sat with that exact fear for a long time. I want you to know it isn't the whole truth. The people I've watched find real peace with this weren't the ones who found a miracle. They were the ones who stopped ignoring the 2 minutes before bed and the 10 minutes after dinner, the small windows that everyone else overlooks. I think about the years I spent believing it was already too late for me, that decades of this condition meant my body had simply stopped being able to respond to anything I did. That belief cost me more peace of mind than the actual numbers ever did. What changed wasn't a dramatic turnaround. It was small, boring, repeatable attention to a couple of hours nobody else was paying attention to. If you take nothing else from this, take that. It is very rarely too late to give your body better material to work with, even after 20, 30, 40 years of this. Please talk with your doctor before adding flaxseed or any new supplement to your routine, especially if you're on blood sugar medication. This is meant to work alongside your treatment plan, never as a substitute for it. If you're on blood thinners in particular, mention it specifically, since fiber and certain seeds can occasionally interact with how those medications are absorbed. Drop your morning number in the comments below. I read every single one, and I promise you're not the only person typing in a number that used to scare you. And if this helped you see your evenings a little differently, subscribe, because there's a lot more of this conversation coming. If you watched this whole thing, you're not the type who gives up. You're the type who keeps looking for a real answer. So let me be straight with you. The morning number isn't your fault, and it isn't just diabetes. It's the dawn rise, and it responds to the right daily habits. The goal was never to quit your treatment. It was to support it naturally so you finally see that number move and feel in control again. Alongside the steps I showed you, I take a simple, natural support every day to help keep my blood sugar in a healthy range. Affordable, easy, and it works with my doctor's plan, not against it. The free presentation is in the description below. Go see it for yourself. And keep your doctor in the loop. This is support, not a replacement.